The grand unveiling of the city's newest skyscraper was a spectacle. Politicians, designers, city officials, and a crowd buzzing with pride filled the modern event hall. The building itself was a shimmering symbol of progress, glass walls reflecting the sunlight, eco-friendly features touted as cutting edge, and a sleek design meant to represent the future of urban architecture. Front and center stood Richard Langston, the celebrated chief architect. His confident smile lit up the stage beneath the harsh spotlights, his ego as towering as the skyscraper behind him. Everyone was ready to applaud, celebrate, and claim victory for this $300 million project that promised to be the state's most accessible commercial tower yet. But then, during the Q&A, a young girl in a wheelchair rolled forward to the microphone. Her presence was quiet but determined. Langston's smile shifted into a sneer as he looked down at her, clearly unimpressed. "This space wasn't designed for people like me," she said, voice steady, clear, and devastating. The crowd tensed. Nervous laughter rippled through the audience. The chief architect laughed outright, a harsh and dismissive sound that echoed in the grand hall. No one expected her next words. 12-year-old Maya had lived with muscular dystrophy since she was 6 years old. Her wheelchair had become part of her identity, not a limitation. If anything, her condition sharpened her senses and awareness. She saw details others missed, ramps too steep to navigate easily, elevator buttons placed out of reach, doors that opened the wrong way for wheelchair access. Her mother, Denise, was a city planner who had spent years fighting to make urban spaces more inclusive. She often brought Maya to city meetings, not because she had to, but because Maya understood accessibility in ways many architects and planners did not. When the invitation arrived to the unveiling of the new skyscraper, a building that was being hailed as a landmark for accessibility, Denise and Maya went with cautious hope. The building looked impressive. Sleek lines, glass facades, state-of-the-art technology. The media was everywhere. The mayor stood proudly in the center of it all, praising the architects and the vision behind the project. But Maya's eyes weren't on the speeches or the applause. They were on the building itself, its layout, the entrance ramp, emergency exits, elevator placements, and the so-called inclusive bathroom. When the Q&A started, Maya raised her hand. At first, the moderator ignored her. Denise nudged the host, and after an awkward pause, the microphone was handed over. Maya's words were brief, but the impact was immediate. The crowd shifted uncomfortably. Langston responded with a cold laugh, his arrogance shining through. A child was pointing out flaws in a $300 million project, flaws he had overlooked. But Maya didn't back down. "The accessible entrance is on the wrong side of the slope," she said. "When it rains, it'll flood fast." Silence swept the room. Langston chuckled, dismissing her concern as childish imagination. But Maya pressed on. "There's no tactile signage at the elevators for visually impaired users. The emergency stairwell has a turn too tight for wheelchairs. The accessible bathroom button is too high for most seated users. And the handrail outside is slippery, made of composite material that won't help someone keep steady if it's wet." Langston's smile faltered. "She's right," whispered a woman from the planning committee, flipping through her notes, eyes widening. Langston adjusted his tie and reminded the room stiffly, "This is a general-use commercial building. No structure is perfect." Denise stood up. "My daughter uses spaces like this every day. She's not nitpicking, she's surviving." A few in the audience clapped quietly, but Maya wasn't finished. "If the fire alarm goes off while I'm on the 14th floor," she said, "what am I supposed to do? Your evacuation platform doesn't have safety straps. The door doesn't open automatically, and the backup generator is hidden behind a stairwell." The tension was thick. Engineers in the back whispered urgently. A junior architect flipped through binders, searching for answers. Denise leaned close to Maya. "You've made your point. Let's sit down." But Maya lifted her head and faced the crowd again. "You didn't build this building for people like me," she said. "You built it for awards." Gasps filled the room. Langston's jaw clenched, anger flashing in his eyes. Before he could respond, the lead engineer whispered in his ear. They had double-checked every one of Maya's claims. She was right. Reporters had begun live tweeting the exchange. Hashtags like #DesignFail, #ListenToMaya, and #inclusion matters exploded across social media. A disability rights advocate shouted, "Why weren't people with disabilities consulted?" Another voice added, "She's 12 and caught what dozens of experts missed." Langston took a step back, his earlier confidence shattered. Before he could spin a response, the city's commissioner of infrastructure took the microphone. "I'd like to publicly thank Miss Maya for highlighting what should have been obvious to all of us," he said. "We clearly failed in oversight." He turned to Langston. "I'm ordering a full audit of this project." Langston tried to object, but the room's mood had shifted. It was no longer just about him. It was about a culture that valued prestige and awards over accessibility and real inclusion. Maya didn't smile. She wasn't there to humiliate anyone. She wanted buildings that worked for everyone. "I'm not trying to ruin anything," she said softly. "I just don't want anyone to be left behind in an emergency or told a building is accessible when it's only halfway there." For the first time all afternoon, Langston had no reply. The next morning, headlines across the state told the story. 12-year-old outsmarts architect at $300 million tower unveiling. Real accessibility hero redefines standards. Chief architect forced to review design after child exposes flaws. Maya appeared on 3 local news stations, but instead of boasting, she used the opportunity to educate. "It's not about blaming anyone," she said. "It's about fixing the foundation." Literally. Langston issued a public statement admitting oversights and announced he would enroll in a course on inclusive design. The city committed to new standards that require input from people with lived experience in every public building project. Maya was invited to consult on upcoming projects. She even received a letter from the National Association of Accessibility Advocates, asking her to speak at their youth summit. She didn't do any of this for attention. She did it so the next little girl in a wheelchair wouldn't be told, "You don't belong here." When asked how it felt to challenge one of the country's top architects in front of a crowd, Maya simply smiled. "He built a tall building," she said. "I just wanted it to stand for something."